that is met on both a local, state, and administrative level.
And we know GAF has been a big part of affordability, and we want to continue to reduce the amount of GAF that Student Senate is depending on. As someone who's been putting herself through college, I really understand the importance of affordability. So why us? As you've heard, we are leaders across campus. We feel we participate heavily on campus, and we can represent a large portion of campus's voices. Why I approach problems very logically, and I remove emotion. Maddie's the yin to my yang. She approaches everything with a lot of passion, and together I think we make a balanced, well-oiled machine. We hope to focus on efficiency and reducing bureaucracy. We want to approach everything with an engineering mindset, so we can have an unbiased and make unbiased opinions and be able to make the hard decisions. So thank you everybody who came here today, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nathan Settler. I'm a sophomore chemical engineering major. I'm from the St. Paul, Minnesota area. Currently, I am doing undergraduate microbial research for Selfie Labs under Dr. Goebel. I'm involved with a few student organizations, well, organizations in general, such as the Wind Ensemble, which I play bassoon for, along with the KTQ Radio Club and the Hard Rocker Tabletop Club. Side note, those are great clubs. Highly recommend joining them, or checking them out if they sound interesting to you. I simply am running because I wish to serve my community. I believe we have a lot of great potential here at Mines, and I wish for this school to be the best it can be. Thank you. Ashton?
My name is Ashton Parsons. I am a third-year computer science major here at the School of Mines. I came in from Colorado, sort of just in my general college years. I don't know how it's already been 3 years, but it has. I am running here with Nathan, not only as his friend, but also for the continued wish to support my community. I am not only very honored to be here, but also honored for the chance that I may be able to serve you. I have a lot of experience from holding community service projects, but also from charity events. I have worked with a lot of people, especially even starting in high school, but also in other charity events in Colorado with organizations like the Denver Street School. We have saved thousands of dollars, and in an attempt to provide a high school for troubled teenagers and people who are going through a lot of difficult things, we have raised lots of money for those people, and we've created a lot of affordability for people who need it. And it is my continued wish that I could provide it here as well, with things like the GAF and things that we can maintain as a student body, and just increased affordability for people who come here with, as it says, the return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Jacob Osted. Thank you, Sam and Mr. Downing, for being here tonight and being the commentators. Tell you a little bit about me. I'm a junior chemical engineering student here at South Dakota Mines. Don't ask me how I got into chemical engineering. I just chose a random one, and it ended up being that. For the past couple of years, I've gotten more involved in lots of different school stuff. This year actually, I planned the homecoming. Rockford Days, I was a tri-chair for that with Isis Rivera and James Markins. So I had some Greek life involvement in there, and did a wonderful job with triangle burning the M. So that was wonderful. Got the parade back, which was a difficult task, but we made it work. We're looking to get it bigger and better for next year. As I'm the student director now, the tri-chairs for this coming year. We're looking for put together a committee of about 40 people, so if any of y'all are interested, there's a plug for that. On top of that, I'm also in choir under the direction of Herrick Skeppers. Shout out to him, he couldn't be here tonight. But I was in 3 choirs last semester. I'm in 1 choir this semester. Had to drop down a little bit. I'm working 2 jobs on top of it, marketing, and I work up in Deadwood as a server. Last semester I had the pleasure and the opportunity to compose the piece, Saber's Lullaby, for the choir. That was premiered in front of 2,000 people at the Cathedral, so that was such an honor. Let's see, clubs that I'm involved in, part of SPE, Society of Petroleum Engineers. We just took a regional conference to Gillette and got to experience that, which was quite a blast. Kaiser was there for that. Part of SOUL, I'm actually the president of SOUL. It stands for Serving Others Unconditional Love. It is a Christian-focused, service-based group going out to help specifically people in need, the homeless, widows, elderly, just, not simply fulfilling their physical needs, but being with them, creating those relationships, and actually being with them and nurturing that. Let's see here. Chi Sigma Pi, a part of that is Linus Swees, the president of that. So I've had the opportunity to be part of that. This Christian Society of Engineers Club, and so that's just been a wonderful experience. And yeah, on top of that, I like to hunt, fish, hike, do all that stuff when I'm not busy, which is almost never. On average, I get, 3 hours of sleep a night, but I do everything with caffeine and a little motivation, so that's some encouragement there. And I'd be honored to be the Student Senate President. With Senate, I helped, this year I helped get Mayor Sullivan and President Tandy to come in and give speeches to the Student Senate, give updates on progress and future outlooks for the city, outlooks for the campus as we got the new president. So we wanted to nurture that connection and community between those relations. That was with Senator Lanner's help on the GR Committee, Governmental Relations Committee. We helped pass the legislation, or we helped take stances on the legislation for SHED, the Students for Higher Education. They appeared, went up to peer, talked with legislators. We got the chance to talk to the governor, secretary of state, stuff like that. Had some pretty impactful stuff. So that's sort of the gist of what we like to do on the Senate. There's a lot of changes that I think could be proposed and need to be proposed and need to happen, and we're looking forward to fulfilling that if we're elected.
My name is Clive Week. I'm a junior in mechanical engineering. Fairly involved in campus. I guess I'll start with the Baja SAE team. It's my second year serving as a chassis subsystem lead on the team. Back there, two of my design leads, John and Tom. Glad to see you guys here. So definitely very involved on the engineering front. Through Baja, I've kind of led my own subsystem, allowed freshmen to kind of gain skills and technically, but also soft skills within the team. The other major involvement is obviously Senate. I've served now 3 years on Senate. Started out in the Student Affairs Committee, where I was gathering your guys' feedback, what you guys felt about food on campus, parking on campus. Got your feedback. One of the big changes made during my time in the Student Affairs was parking changes. We dedicated a section in the Boneyard, as it's affectionately called, for discount parking, and that was one of the things I worked on. My second year on Senate, I was invited to be the Constitution Committee Chair. And during that role, I oversaw the Constitution Committee. We passed about a dozen new student organizations. I also worked on an amendment to the Constitution of the Student Association Senate, which clarified some wording and also allowed students from classes that they weren't technically a part of based on credit hour to run for their appropriate constituencies. That was a major change that was made during my time as Constitution Chair. Currently serving the edge of Vice President, there I get to lead the committee chairs. So Madeline Siegman, our lovely PR chair, Jordan Laynard, our GR chairs. So couple faces you'll see here are from Senate. Aiden, good to see you here. So I get to lead Senate in that perspective. One of the big roles is obviously coordinating SHED, which is Students for Higher Education Day. During that event, we bring student senators down to Pierre, South Dakota, to lobby on behalf of you guys. This year there are a couple bills that are pretty important to the student body, and we brought those up. We also just plugged minds in general, made sure that the legislators understood that we appreciate their support for higher education in South Dakota. I'm also a part of Chi Sigma Pi, so lots of different other organizations I would love to elaborate on later. But one of the big priorities of our administration is community, governance, and industry. And those are the three big kind of sectors that we hope to target, and we'll share more about that later. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, we'll start our first question. We'll give time to each group here. Where do you stand on the issue of campus carry?
We'll start right and go left this side.
got it. Thank you for the question, Mr. Dunn. It's a very important question, I think, for the campuses, not only here at just Mines, but statewide. South Dakota is a constitutional carry state. That it allows more freedom naturally, where you don't have to have any permitting to conceal carry a weapon. That was passed by Governor Knoll a couple of years back. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment, as it is in our Constitution in the United States. The special thing proposed with this bill on campus carry, which has been pushed for years, ever since I came here with YAL and other groups, President Rankin had discussed it with me. But the big thing with this bill that's been proposed is that it requires an enhanced carry permit in its form right now for people to carry the pistol, concealed carry pistol on campus, which means that they have an added training, an added duty, they're competent to carry this weapon. So I think that with the provisions that are provided in the amended bill, which also restricts campus carry from being allowed in quote-unquote clean places or hazardous places, such as clean labs, hazardous labs with chemicals and other explosive reagents, I think that it is something that could be, and if the state legislature passes, it should be allowed to happen at South Dakota Mines campus. I think that it could be a beneficial thing if there was an act or a potential act of crime against students or faculty on campus or close to campus. If somebody is there with a proper weapon, with the proper training, right? We don't want some person out here who doesn't know what they're doing. But if you have the proper training and the right person, they can stop an act of violence, they can prevent stuff, and they can actually be the hero of the day. That's my stance on it. Ultimately, it rests with the state legislature, though. And we will make sure to hear the student body voice as we did this year, to then present that to the Student Federation and then the state legislature to give our stance on it. So really it's coming from the student body to the state legislature.
All right. Personally, I don't see any reason not to bring in the school with the rest of South Dakota law. However, again, that's for the state legislature to decide, and then students to decide what position the school would take on that in the future.
I have spoken to professors and students on campus here about that, and I've spoken to professors that basically said, like, if I get a grade, and if I give a grade that this person does not like, I am incapable of defending myself in the situation, and in that sense, it is completely understandable, because it is literally just, if you have an open door policy as a professor, and especially in a situation where this person is not capable of defending themselves, they are quite literally in a dangerous situation. And I think it is absolutely within reason that we should keep with consistency with the state laws as well. There is, within the statistics of the entire country, is rather in the minority that most colleges allow this. However, I also do think it is understandable under the given circumstances, especially with the law in South Dakota. So.
Yeah, as a member of the military, I have a great appreciation for weapons. I was lucky enough to be able to moderate the forum where we discussed this, and we got to hear both sides of opinions. Hear about the concerns about increased suicide, increased risk of violence on campus, but we can also, I think, acknowledge the fact that weapons on campus would discourage crime on campus. And having heard all of these opinions, we came to a reasonable compromise, which was then implemented in the current version of the bill, where it requires training and it keeps it out of labs and other places where having a weapon would be hazardous. So going with students' opinion and the current bill on campus, we support the current bill on campus, not on campus, and legislator, but it's ultimately up to them. We've, as a school, voiced our opinion on it, though, I think, in a way that all students, a compromise that most students can agree upon.
To further that, speaking from the Student Federation level, as I was one of the people, along with our current president, Mr. Hagen Archer, who was able to share our Student Senate stance and our student body's opinion on this bill to the Student Federation this past year, I took great pride in the fact that we represented what our students wanted, based upon the results of the ballot that we conducted. Despite our own personal feelings on the topic, despite the feelings of the other schools across the state, I felt like we acted with extreme confidence and extreme poise and extreme maturity to express that our students did not have a clear stance either way on the bill as it stood unamended. We were in favor of an amendment to the bill, but at that point, that was not introduced, and I felt like that is going to be a cornerstone of the Leonard-Seekman administration, standing up for what our students want, despite the roadblocks, despite our personal biases and inhibitions. Ultimately, that's what we're here for, and that's our goal.
And when we were unable to get Student Federation to stand with us, our Student Senate was able to go to legislators directly and be like, this is what our students want. And that's what we hope to continue.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question here. Considering the Student Association Senate has a poor reputation with the student body, what will your administration be doing to help rebuild that reputation? We'll start in the middle, and then we'll go to the right, and then finally to the left.
All right. Sure. I think Student Senate's reputation currently comes from, well, for sure, I feel like the leak of how much each Senate positions were being paid certainly negatively affected opinions of Senate across the board and across campus. How you exactly recover that, I don't really know. You could always just get rid of it and cut it, and I feel like students would really like that. I don't know. How about you?
I mean, obviously within the proportions, like I think about 100 people voted in the last student election, and it is within a vast minority of people that actually do. I mean, even from speaking to people on campus, it is a lot of people do not care, and I think it's fair to them because they don't have the I think it needs to matter, and I think a lot of people don't understand how much it can matter when a lot of conversations can lead to change. And I think there are a lot of students who do not think that. I think it's very simple for people to not want to involve themselves in things like that. People don't tend to push into something like the Senate positions. It's very easy. I know most students just simply don't, outside of the bubble of the things that matter. Because I'm very much so like that to a lot of things. It's a lot of people just simply do not care about what's going on in the Student Senate, and it's something that I think communication, and I think that overall it's just very important that we maintain some kind of improvement in communication with how we can actually affect people and change things to make it matter to more.
Thank you. You guys next.
Oh, yeah.
They must have left this one.
I appreciate the question,
Sorry.
and I think this is something that a lot of you guys relate to, and I appreciate that you guys are spending your Monday evening coming out and engaging with the Student Association Senate. This is definitely an issue that's concerned me a lot, specifically the issue that Mr. Sattler brought up regarding the Senate salaries that were leaked. I guess I'd provide a clarification first of all. Those numbers, the data in that leak, so to speak, are public information. And I am truly disappointed that it took a leak like that for the student body to become aware that these positions are paid, and that those positions are ones that are valuable enough so far to the student body to fund those positions. Now, we obviously send a lot of emails. We post a lot on social media. And yet, I feel like there's still a lack of connection between the Student Association Senate and the rest of the student body. I mean, let's be real. If you allow me to engage with the audience a little bit, how many of you are still confused about what Student Senate does? Raise your hand. So we have former president of the Senate. Right? So I think there's still some confusion as to what the responsibilities of Senate are. I think a lot of it is because we operate in the background, right? We allocate funds in the background. We do a lot of things in the background. And even though a lot of that information is public to you guys, there's just not very much engagement. So what will the Bostad B administration do about that? We're going to continue to post those information. We're going to continue with those emails. But what we're also going to do is come one-on-one with you guys. We're going to continue to engage with student organizations on a personal level and see what you guys really think. Another opportunity is to connect with university staff on behalf of the student body. that's a big issue that I think students face is they have issues with their academics. They have issues with various items on campus, but they're not willing to talk to the people who can make the change. We want to be there standing between you guys and the staff, where you guys don't feel comfortable talking to the staff directly. And that's a big priority that we have.
Yep. So I think Clive hit on a lot of good points there. So to get down to the blunt message of it, the majority of you don't know what Student Senate does. I don't think a lot of Student Senate knows what they do. That's just my opinion. There's a lot of commentary from the ticket on the right about the problems, but we're here to try to provide solutions. So we brainstormed a few different things. In our proposal for the current budget, there's a look, and there's a proposal by me that can be looked at later if I'm elected, where those salaries for the exec board would be lowered to then provide amount for salaries for every student senator. What does that do? That incentivizes you guys who are, as far as I know, I'm a poor college kid, right? As a lot of us are. But that gives you incentive to run. It gives people who actually have the brains, the competency, and the want to actually make change to make that change, right? Right now my proposal would allot for $250 for every single senator. That's excluding the exec board. With that $250, that's about approximately 10 nice meals that you could go get yourself at a Texas Roadhouse, right? So the gist of the story is that that's one way to pull you guys in to actually have your input, because every single year you get the same people. You get the same people who sometimes wish they were poli-sci majors, but they have a gift for engineering, and God bless them. But they stay in there, they do the Senate job. Some of this stuff isn't as transparent as it needs to be, and then you get these quote-unquote leaks where there shouldn't be leaks. It needs to be transparent. We're going to make it transparent. The budget needs to be transparent. Where we allot the money goes to, should be transparent. We approve all of the org's GAF, right? And so we deal with all of that stuff. And if there's a shroud of darkness, right, that's not fair to you, it's not fair to us. I think that people in Senate appreciate being paid. I don't know of anybody who doesn't. But I think that they need to put in the work, right? It's called being worth your salt, as back on the ranch we call it. So if you're actually going to work and do it, sure, I have no problem paying you. And that can be looked at where it all comes from. But don't just pay these select people on the exec committee and say to heck with the other senators. That incentivizes people to run. But on top of that, in this proposed budget that we have currently, there is an allotment of money that can then be given back to student orgs. Meaning we've had ideas of coming in and filming Instagram Reels or some other social media on what you guys do to get your product, to get your services out there on social media, and then we would provide, say, something fun, like some food or some
We're going to
games.
move on.
Yep.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Loved it. Final group here.
Yeah, so we'll touch on the budget first, because that's an obviously really big issue right now. Maddie and I discussed this recently, and it's something that we discussed last year when we were reviewing the budget as well. We do not believe that Student Senate should receive salaries. We plan on removing salaries from Student Senate. There's plenty of orgs on campus where their leadership does equal amount of work and they don't get paid either. We think incentivizing positions encourages people who just want some, easy money to join Senate. We want people to be there because they want to make a change, not because they want a salary. And you might be asking, it's easy to talk, not walk the walk. Due to budget constraints this year, both Maddie and I donated our salaries back to the Student Senate. It is our goal to continue to reduce the GAF expenditure of Student Senate by increasing fundraising and removing salaries. We're here to serve you, not take your money, And as far as transparency goes, we touched on it a little bit in our opening, but we want to continue to be transparent. We want to encourage senators to be out actually talking to their Senate, not just showing up at a meeting on Wednesday and doing their job. Do you want to expand on that?
Again, coming from the PR world, that's where I live and do my work. Again, I recognize that there is a current giant information gap, and I proposed my ideas for decreasing that gap. However, again, I'm just one person who spends too much time thinking about all of this. So I would also propose the creation of perhaps even a a student-led, not student senate, student-led focus group of volunteers who can also provide a little perspective about what information students want and how to get it. Things like that. Again, we are your constituents. Every action we make and everything we do should be motivated by what you want and what you're telling us to do. And I think that's another great way to reduce this gap. We're open to ideas. We'd love to hear them. If you have a great burning one, come talk to us. Transparency is, again, a key point of our administration.
I say, and we got to see the benefit of transparency and hearing your guys' opinion by having that open forum. And the most consistent feedback we got from that forum was we should do it more often, and that is definitely our plan. Because having conversations with you is the best way for us to be most effective.
Is there?
Yeah, we can have a quick rebuttal.
Okay.
If
20 seconds.
go for it.
All right. Just in commentary, I appreciate Senator Lannert and Seekman's input. A couple questions here. So the proposal to not have salaries, would that impact the budget for this coming Senate administration, or is that going to be from Senate administration after you guys are no longer in there? The second point I'd like to make is the student senate should be the liaison for the students. You talk about a student focus group, hearing the student voice and putting forth student opinions. I believe that's what the student senate is, or at least it should be. I'm concluded.
Any response? Yes, please.
Yeah, well, it's neither our job nor your job to set next year's budget. That resides to the current president. I do plan on donating my salary again, because just like Congress, I don't think our representation should be paid, or if they are paid, not enough to live. And on the other side, on most things, I feel I can make a confident guess at what the student opinion is, but I think it makes students feel heard to know that they have the opportunity to share their voice on bigger things like guns on campus. And I think there's a fine balance there. I think day to day we take votes on things all the time, and I think that's where we can represent student voices. But I also feel that it's important for them to feel heard as well and know that they have been heard.
And elaborating on your second question with the focus groups, I would propose, again, from a PR standpoint, that a specialized 4 or 5 person focus group to improve transparency be formed. Simply a more specified function of the already, as you mentioned, focus group that's considered as a whole. Just an idea for how to increase transparency. Again, willing to entertain options.
Any commentary?
Sure, yeah, no, we're in complete agreement with Jordan and Maddie about axing the student senate salaries. I've talked to a lot of kids, I've talked to club leaders, some who put in 30 hours a week, 10 to 20 hours a week in work, and the only people that I've really ever seen in support of the student senate salaries are the people in student senate.
Thank you, and then we'll move on. For this next round, this is a pretty complex topic. We're going to keep you guys to 3.5 minutes, and then we'll go around and there'll be another commentary and discussion follow-up.
So what is your stance on an increase in general activity fees?
Sorry, I have to pick a different way to go. We'll go left, right, then middle.
Our current stance is the student current stance. The student current stance is not to increase general activity fees. I think there's a lot of trimming that can be done on campus. Waste here and there, even if it's just on students, that can be made to reduce the amount of GAF we're using, to reduce the amount of cuts to SOAP. I think we can all acknowledge inflation has been difficult, and we've heard from students that SOAP cuts have been difficult. But again, the 2024 survey, as they pointed out on social media, students are against increasing GAF, and so as long as that continues to be the student opinion, that's going to be our opinion.
It's a fine-edged sword between funding things and having the money to fund things. And again, we stand with the students. Currently, students are not in favor, and therefore we are not.
And that aligns right now with our stance of continuing affordability.
So I'd have to agree with Senator Leonard and Seekman on the point of that we do not support a gap increase. I think that when it comes down to it, very simply, there are other ways that can be looked at much further first than to increase gap. Ways that I mean by that, such as fundraising, sponsorships. I personally helped get the lighting, Christmas lighting on the arch this year for the Winter Wonderland. There was a week-long of events in early December. And what I did for that is I didn't go and request a gap increase and all that, but half of that cost was covered by Nyberg's ACE because I just simply reached out to them as a student and said, hey, we'd like to partner with you. Would you be willing to help? And they emailed me and said, it's so great to hear how students have a passion for the campus that they're at. It's much more effective when it comes from the student body than when it comes from faculty, Dean Joe, or the student engagement suite as they've done in the past. So I think that ultimately it comes down to there is not a need for gap increase as shown by the survey that we commented on in the social media post, which would impact tuition, right? You increase gap and all that. But there's more need for outreach to sponsors, alumni, industry. So that's where it comes from, and I think that it can solve a lot of the problems. We raised as a Senate $3,600, was it $3,600 close to it? And we'd never done fundraising before. Now we have money in a rainy day fund that can be used to give back to student orgs or whatever we choose to give it back to. So I think that there's a plethora of opportunities there.
I want to add on this gap issue. It's quite related to the transparency issue as well. About a third of the students we surveyed admitted that they have no idea what GAP does or what it's spent on. And I think that's pretty sad because we all pay GAP, right? We pay $49.60 a credit hour, if you're not aware. And that's money that should come back to us in some form or another. And so if a third of us students don't realize what GAP is going to, I think that's pretty bad. But like Jacob mentioned, almost 80% of students aren't interested in a gap increase. And as long as that's the case and we're able to fund all the programs that students want, that's going to be our position, no gap increase.
Sure. We are absolutely against increasing the gap. We would rather cut programs than sit and increase costs for students who are primarily here to go and get degrees and go to school. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no reason for us to increase. I think, especially again, when one of the greatest qualities of the school, one of the greatest reasons that the students attend the school is its affordability and it's that plain and simple. One of the first things we should not target is increasing how much people are paying, especially when, as previously mentioned, that it's just simply most people don't even really know where that money is going, especially with how much that money adds up when you're taking upwards of 15 more credit hours and that it's a lot of money, and directly targeting the amount that a student is paying it's directly against one of the greatest reasons people are coming here. So yeah, we do not want to change it. We do not want to increase it.
Thank you. Now we're going to ask some follow-ups here so that the students can see a better understanding of what you guys know about the topic and what your opinions are. Is anybody aware of the current deficit that the campus runs related to CAF?
Did you want me to answer?
Anybody. We can go with anybody.
Yeah, sure. So I just got out of a GAFAC committee, General Activity Fee Allocation Committee, and there we made some tough choices about which programs that we wanted to not provide full funding for. And even at the end of the day, we were close to 50,000 short. And so we were taking out of a reserve fund for GAF, which has been kind of built up over the years since COVID. But that fund is not infinite, right? At the end of the day, some programs are going to go, or the GAF is going to have to increase. But as much as we can, we don't want to increase that gap. And so we're going to see where we can be more efficient. We're going to see where programs aren't being utilized by students and aren't being appreciated by students, and we're going to identify those and remove them. We want to support student life as students want them, whether it's student orgs, whether it's student engagement programs. We're here to support student life, and it's going to be tough. We run on a deficit for quite a while now. That's all I can tell you.
Anybody else? Yes, please.
I can share a little bit about what I know goes into the GAF, or what is what services across campus take from the GAF fund. Notably, and most affecting students, we have our SOAP fund, that is for student org allocations. We have our wellness center, we have our athletics, we have counseling, and we have the Devereaux Library. Those services are the primary ones that are all vying for the pie, as well as Student Association Senate gets our budget directly from the GAF allocation committee. We do not award our own budget. We have members who sit on the committee, and the rest of the committee does the allocation.
Any closing thoughts on GAF from anybody?
Could I just ask a question
Yes.
about the ticket to my right? So you mentioned you'd rather cut programs than increase GAF. What programs do you think you would cut first on campus?
Obviously, I wouldn't be first cutting programs. I think that'd be completely ridiculous to just start going in with an axe cutting things. Obviously, we'd seek alternative forms of funding for stuff, but I'd rather cut things and possibly look at what's unpopular, what's not being used, what clubs kind of aren't really worth their value so far, rather than increasing the cost for just a student here that wants to go to school.
Excuse me. To add a last point to that. So in his opening statement on GAF, he talked about cutting programs. You all heard it. He said it. He said we're focused on the degree. And I think that you don't need to cut activities or organizations to keep GAF the same. He talked about seeing programs that are of their worth. What scale is he measuring of their worth? I think if there's people that are committed to an organization, that want to be in an organization, let them do it. But you have to be tight with your money. We all have to be conservative fiscally with our money because we don't have an endless pocketbook to reach out of. That's why you look into fundraising. That's why you look into sponsorships and all that stuff. Now, if an organization fails because of their lack of that, then that's on them. But I'm not going to sit here and say, students don't care about organizations. I know you didn't say that, but it sort of came off that way as to where we'd rather have you get the degree, which that's true. But students need a life too, right? They have activities that they really enjoy, Baja people, other activities people, Circle K people, they enjoy these activities. I think they should have the right to do those activities without having a threat of them being cut.
Thank you. Any other commentary on GAF? Great. We'll move on to something a little less technical. What do you guys see as your actual, like, you could narrow it down into something simple to explain, what's your responsibility to the student body? And we're going to start here, fully left, and then into the middle.
So I think our responsibility to the student body is to be the student liaison to three main sections like we discussed in our opening statement: community, industry, government. That's what it boils down to. So community, our responsibility as a student liaison is how can we interact with and join together the campus community, right? There's a disconnect. You got people, engineers that are gamers, 15 hours a day playing games. How can we attract them to be with other people? How can we pull them into other clubs and other orgs? It's true. Community outward focused, meaning city community. The city wants to be involved, but they don't know what we're doing. How can we advertise with them more? That's part of homecoming. That's part of getting them at football games. I've talked to President Tandy and David Crum about that. How do you attract more city people to the campus and vice versa? Going to industry. That is a thing where industry wants to hear from students. If we together as a student body, student liaison, student senate, and you come together and go to industry and say, hey, there is a need for a mechanical engineering company, or there's no Chem-E companies practically in Rapid. I'm out of Chem-E. There is a need for Chemies in Rapid. Come, and we'll support you. We'll stay in Rapid. That's what we're looking to do. But the government side, that boils up from Student Senate to you guys, the student body, through Student Senate, to the campus administration, President Tandy, the executive board there, sharing our needs, our desires with them, but also sharing them with Student Federation, which is all of the student senates combined, which then can share it to the state legislature. You see how it's a waterfall all the way up? So if we have good communication and good input here, we can then take it to the student legislature where we can talk to the governor and legislators and actually get agendas that we care about at the Capitol.
No, I think that we can, yeah.
Yeah, we see Student Senate as being the proactive megaphone for students on campus. And that really goes along with our agenda to to improve quality of life. That means representing you, making sure things on campus with administration and faculty are being dealt with, and to anticipate your needs, as well as with legislators. You know, a lot of legislators aren't thinking about us, you know, most of the year. It's our job to be like, hi, we're here, we're here because it's affordable, and it needs to stay that way. And transparency, sorry. And transparency. We're here to be transparent with you so you know what's going on. So if things aren't the way you want them, that can be changed. You want to add to that?
Yeah, not much to add. We are here for you. Our goal is to eliminate all of our personal biases. We're not better than you. We don't know more than you. We are here to help you, and that is.
You're here to get degrees. Somebody needs to represent your opinion, needs to deal with your issues, and you might not have time to do that, so we want to take that time to do that for you.
Thank you. Final group here.
Sure. Yeah, I see the goal of Student Senate as twofold. They allocate money to organizations and keep organizations on campus running, and then along just representing the students to the outside world, whether that be the state government, businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, very simply, yes, we are here to be, put ourselves aside and to, well, not fully, obviously, because there is an inherent quality we need to maintain to the things that we do, but also to maintain what people want and people need, and to be able to put those things aside and focus more on just how we can help the majority, and to some extent put ourselves aside. So.
Thank you.
You mentioned transparency and communications. How will you ensure a proper two-way communication between student association and student organizations and individual students?
Start to the left and we'll sweep right, like we did to begin with.
Like I mentioned, our primary idea at this time is our website type information database. We recognize that students are overloaded with information. They have lots on their plates, and they don't need an email from a student senate shoved down their throat every day. We want our communication to be purposeful and effective and efficient. That might not take the form of a website. That's the current idea, and as I mentioned, we're willing to improve upon this idea. But that's the gist of how we'd like to improve transparency: effective, succinct, and consistent.
As far as two-way communication, a lot of issues happen when you guys have problems. How do we get those problems? And day to day, most of our bigger, easily addressed issues come from when our senators are talking to you guys. They come to us, they're like, these are the issues our students are facing, and I think it's us being able to hold our senators accountable, make sure that the students on Senate are not just there to say they did Senate, they're there to actually represent you. They're going to their student orgs, they're talking to students on campus, and so us holding them accountable, I think, is one of the better ways to get that two-way communication. And then as far as on bigger issues, like we said, we want to hold more open forums. We want to be more proactive in our participation on campus with other organizations.
Thank you.
Honestly, I think it is very involved with making sure, because obviously I'm absolutely one of those people who receive an email, and I have many of them, and I'm trying to make sure I'm focused on what I'm trying to do, and it's like, oh my goodness, I don't want to hear about this right now. I'm busy. I need to do this, and it's obviously it gets lost, and it very easily is something that just it's put aside. With emails especially, it's easy to lose track of what exactly you want to focus on, and if we want to be heard, especially as a Senate, and be able to maintain any kind of two-way communication, it's important that what we say isn't just sometimes another email. It needs to be, that's what was previously mentioned as well, is maintaining that we're moving around and communicating with our community, not just with people on campus, but people that are even off campus, and people that finding more ways to involve ourselves, as opposed to just, especially with things like emails and even those little floor posters and stuff like that. It can very easily get very lost.
No, I completely agree with Ashton and my opponents here that another email is just not the solution. And to touch on the part of the question about organizations, I would love to meet with heads of organizations on even just a semi-regular basis. I believe, directly talking to people is better than sending an email. And I think closer communication with heads of clubs and such could be very beneficial.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, what you said, Mr. Sattler, is something that we've been kind of embarking on even in this administration, the Archer We administration. This semester I really pushed for our Senate to bring in existing student organizations. Come and present. What are they doing around campus? What are some challenges they're facing? What are outreach opportunities they're pursuing? This administration, I think we could take that to the next level. We could send out our student senators to individual organizations and talk to them maybe on a regular basis. Maybe come to their weekly meetings. Meet the people within their organizations. I see a lot of organizations here. I see camp teams. I see Greek Life. I see Young Americans for Liberty. You guys each have your unique needs, but you guys are also focused on your academics. So maybe it's academics we need to pursue. Maybe we need to meet with department heads, continue to meet with department heads. Maybe we need to meet with the department-specific professional organizations. There's a lot of opportunities there. But like Mr. Sattler said, I think one-on-one can be a lot more effective than social media, than emails, because sometimes that gets lost in the mix. There's a lot of opportunity here, and those are just some of the ideas that we're looking to pursue.
Thank you. This next question did not make it onto the online forum, but we have it in paper here, and it's actually a great question. So let me see if I can summarize this better. At the end of the year in 2026, what if you could be proud of one thing that you've accomplished and that you want the student body, to grade you off of, what would that be? And we're going to start right and sweep left.
I would say for me, I'd say the top two things, if I had to pick, not one but two, would be homecoming. That'd be number one, right? Bringing the parade back from the ashes, like a phoenix from the ashes. It hadn't happened in 10 years. We got it going with a tremendous committee. So hallelujah to all of you. We had close to 30 people. We got the parade going. We started the Hard Rocker Huddle. We got the M to burn like never before, and it was a beautiful thing. We're going to do even bigger and better next year. The second thing would be bringing in the mayor and the president in consecutive weeks to talk about their vision for the campus, the city. The mayor talked for 45 minutes. We had a dinner with him. We got to ask questions, and it was a beautiful time to figure out how Mine students, not just the Senate, but how Mine students can individually make an impact with the city and vice versa. We're looking at partnerships with the city. They're looking at partnerships on campus.
Sam, can you clarify? Are you referring to this past year or this coming year?
No, it would be 2026.
So at the end of
at the end
or
of
the
your
end
guys'
okay,
term.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can answer that.
yeah, I can go ahead on that. I think number one is the reputation of Senate. I mean, like one of the earlier questions was, how do you address Senate being looked upon, like frowned upon as an organization that just sucks money and does nothing? I want to change that. I want an organization to be known as one that is truly representing the student body. I want you guys to recognize that there's action happening and that we actually care about you guys, number one. Number two, I want to make sure that you guys understand that we listen to you. So beyond just not doing nothing, I want you guys to know that we hear you and that we're incorporating what you guys feel about issues, about guns on campus, about food issues, about parking issues, that we hear you and that we're making changes for you.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, if elected at the end of my term, I would be overjoyed if I could potentially get rid of the student senate salaries permanently with a constitutional amendment. I feel like that'd be wonderful, and I think to go to my opponent's point, I think that would really save the reputation of Senate currently. And again, I'd also be quite happy if people remembered that we represented students' opinions well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say communication is the biggest thing, especially with all of the content that we've just covered. Communication is such a massive issue right now it's between Student Senate and the student body, and also just with the general support, because obviously a lot of people are very pleased to hear about something that was public information, and I would say if everybody could be aware, and especially with engagement as well, if we could have more involvement with Student Senate and student bodies in general, student organizations in general, sorry, and just be able to bridge more gaps and bring more people, because there are a lot of people living in bubbles. And I absolutely admit to that, because I came here as a campus student and I fell in. I didn't join any clubs for moments, and that's, a lot of people are living like that, and I would love it if we could bring more people, not only to more organizations, but also to just, there's a lot of people here, we can be happy and talk together, and a lot of people, it's fine, but we'd love to have more people around in all those places.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously tonight we've talked a lot about our goals, but tangible, at the end of the year, I want to be able to walk up to anybody on campus and go, what does Student do? What does Student Senate do? And have them be able to say they're there to represent our voices. They're there to make sure that our problems are being addressed, and for them to say that we actually did those things. Because a lot of students either don't know what Student Senate does, or think all we do is, take money away from them or ask them to spend more money, which I don't want to be the answer at the end of the year.
Okay, great. One second. We have more questions on paper, apparently. Okay, if elected and you find that another senator or, a leader on campus is acting unethically, how do you think you should handle that, whether they're a senator or whether they're a leader of a different organization? What do you think the best way to handle that is from your roles as leaders on campus, if a senator is acting unethically?
A senator specifically, or just any leader on
In
campus?
theory, it would be a senator, but if it be anybody, I think that as a leader on campus, you would still have a role in speaking out. So we're going to start in the middle, we're going to go left, and we're going to finish on the right here.
Sure, yeah, I absolutely think it depends on what kind of violation it is and the severity. Obviously, if it was more severe, we would take necessary steps, whether that'd probably be escalated past us to campus safety or someone else. Yeah, it would absolutely depend on what the violation is. Yeah. If it's incredibly egregious thing and it's something that needs to be dealt with in a very dramatic way almost, then obviously we would take the necessary steps within the needs of other people's safety even. But in a situation where it is not nearly as tense, and it is much more it is a violation, but it is something that can be handled in a way that is not dramatic or doesn't require any sort of quick response, I would say direct communication is always incredibly important, and speaking to this person, not only to understand where this sort of thing is happening and coming from, but also to establish communication with others, other people around them, and just obtain information from the person who is doing this, and to go from there and just basically establish communication, and then go from there once again if it is not helping or if it is still not really making any progress, to contact other people. So.
Thank you.
First of all, Senate's not a conduct organization. We generally leave that up to Dean Joe, but in the past this issue has come up, and there's been acknowledgement of lack of coverage in the student constitution to address issues like this. I think that's something we'd be interested in changing, is make sure our constitution can accurately address and deal with these issues, so we have some provision to deal with them in the future.
I would say accusing someone of doing something wrong, unethical, is kind of a serious thing. It's not a matter to be taken lightly. Obviously requires some self-examination, discussing the issue with the person specifically. I would say the Senate Constitution does provide for impeachment of senators who are violating the Constitution or violating codes of conduct. I'm not sure if that's what's being brought up in this case, but obviously discussion with a person individually is super important, and I would say it's the first step to addressing some ethical misconduct or something like that. And then if need be, escalating that to an organizational kind of addressing of the issue. Obviously we have other ways to address it, depending on the issue. It could be residence life issue, it could be an issue to be brought to Dean Joe and so forth. So I think there are a lot of different avenues that we can take to address unethical behavior, but I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Do we have any other quick questions?
Also try the not so good ones.
So we're
Okay, I have a not so good one. You guys speak any foreign languages?
I took 2 years of Spanish. I haven't practiced in a while.
Was not expecting that.
I grew up speaking Chinese.
No, sorry. I did not. And because of that, they were going last. We'll go middle. So we'll finish on the right.
None of real relevance.
Okay.
Un poquito de español.
I can passively read Spanish. Does code count as a foreign language?
Yes.
Then in that case, I speak at least 5 languages.
It's not a foreign language, but I took 3 years of ASL.
Now we're back to you guys.
Just 2 years of Spanish.
I grew up speaking Mandarin, a little bit of Cantonese. I've really lost it. Unfortunately, it's a language that's difficult to take on from like an English perspective. So I'm kind of sad about that. But I don't know. I'm kind of coding. I do a little JavaScript. That's about it. Python. I don't know. MATLAB. There's some people who disagree with the statement that MATLAB is true coding because indices start at 1. I don't know if that's relevant to any of y'all.
Okay, thank you. We actually don't have any more awful questions.
We're
Do you
coming
have
to about
do
an
you have a way
hour,
to
so
get through that one or not? I think we can cover it.
No.
Okay, because we have no more good and really no more bad questions. A quick one. What's your favorite experience from Senate so far? And this is just a quick thing from each person, not from each group. And we're going to start in the middle, then right, then left.
Sure, I'd say my favorite part of Senate when I served as a freshman senator was when I got the privilege to go up to Pierre for SHED and meet representatives and represent my school in that way. I know my Ashton hasn't done Senate before, but
What's your favorite experience, I guess, related to why you would want to be on the Senate?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd say I've spoken to Nathan a lot about his experience with Senate, and I, obviously going into this position, I would be somebody who is experienced with Senate, and that is something to consider, honestly. I would say that, would you say my favorite experience with?
Yeah, and what's your favorite experience that you think, is relevant to Senate? That can kind of inform your worldview going forward.
I mean, I've done a lot. There's been some like partnering with what's it, South Dakota Feeds, I believe it is. They've done a lot of a lot of stuff where they've provided food and stuff in the parking lot down at the stadium, and I've gone down there a few times, even in the crazy winters we have. So it's been, but that's been, I'd say, probably the best thing I've done, the most favorite thing I've done on campus, because those people are lovely. You meet the nicest people out there who are just helping people get food in the winter, and it's a lovely experience. So,
Favorite experience from Senate so far? I would say there's probably leading our delegation of students for Students for Education Day here. It's kind of a new thing this year. I put together a little trip itinerary, and I think it was extremely helpful in keeping everyone organized and on schedule. I got to plan a special, customized tour of the Capitol with one of our representatives. So it was a great opportunity to see how good planning can actually make a difference.
I'd say my favorite experience from the Senate was SHED, getting to go with the senators to Pierre, getting to talk to the governor and the Secretary of State was a highlight. The most impactful thing to me that would help me with the Senate would probably be the homecoming work. That was a beast, beyond a beast. I'm looking forward to doing it again, but I think that there's a lot of leadership opportunity there, and I think that I can really provide that in the Senate as well.
Okay.
My favorite moment on Senate, I would have to say, is a string of moments. I've really enjoyed the relationships I've formed surrounding Senate. With my fellow senators, I've met some of my greatest friends and colleagues through Senate. And I've had some really great conversations with people who are very dear to me surrounding Senate, senators and constituents. I think Senate is a conduit for those really great, deep relationships in my personal experience, and I really enjoyed those moments.
Yeah, my favorite part about being on Senate, I don't think it's one specific moment. It's the same thing about being a resident advisor. I enjoy being able to see the small effects of the changes. You know, if someone has something and being able to say, you know, I'll get that dealt with, and actually getting it dealt with. And it might not seem like a lot to them, but it has an overall, like, large impact on student quality of life. And getting the satisfaction of those little moments of joy is what makes me want to continue to be a senator. So yeah.
Thank you. And I think with that being said, we're going to go to closing statements here. How do I want to do the order? We'll just repeat the order that we did to open with. So we're going to start in the left and work our way right for closing statements. A few minutes to 5, let's say, but nobody's probably going to hit that. So go ahead.
No, I'll reiterate the points we've been making this whole time. We want to improve student quality of life, increase transparency, be proactive leaders, be unbiased, be able to make the hard decisions, and continue to encourage affordability, because at the end of the day, we're all here to go to school. And while, you know, organizations and internships and all that make us better leaders and better workers when we go into the field, we all already are here to focus on school, and affordability and transparency, I think, is the best way we can encourage that.
I'm thankful for you all showing up tonight. Thank you for your consideration of our candidacy. You're the reason why we're here. You're the reason why we're doing what we're doing. And we appreciate you guys showing up and showing out.
It's really lovely to actually see interest in Senate. I think it's awesome that we have multiple people running this year for the first time in a while. I think that's how Senate should be run. So, thank you very much.
Sure, I'd like to reiterate our kind of points of that we are strongly against a gap increase and strongly against. I agree with my opponents that we are strongly against senators taking a salary. I would love to, you know, form a more stronger people-to-person relationship with Senate to the rest of the student body and the leaders on campus. Quite simply, my opponents here, they have been on Senate for multiple years at some of the highest positions, committee heads, and yet now they somehow want to make changes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we want to be transparent, and obviously I'm greatly looking forward to that opportunity given it. I think that's mainly it. I think Nathan covered it, and yeah, I would really like to have the opportunity to serve, but also have the opportunity to just really make a difference and support people who need it.
And I'd like to, again, agree with my opponents. Thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see this amount of interest. Coming from an election last year of just one person on the ballot, thank you all. Thank you both for running, and thank you all for coming.
I want to thank Sam and Mr. Downing for being moderators again. Thank you all for being here. Like you heard all night, our goal, community, industry, government, that's the regions that we want to expand, and we have a clear and defined vision that's been lacking in the Senate for, I don't know, probably 5 years since COVID. I wasn't here back then. To comment on the other statements made by the other senators, I appreciate them being here tonight. To comment on the ticket to the right. I've only been in Senate for 1 year. That's why I see the need for change. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not a committee chair, just a Peasley Junior Senator wanting to be the president. Mr. Sattler was on the Senate earlier and then wasn't, and so now he's trying to run again. So keep that in mind. So we've all had experience up here basically, and there's times that we hit the ball, and there's times that we don't. We're looking to cause change, good change, promote growth with the student body, like we outlined, in interacting with the student orgs, the administration, the city, the government, to really share your needs with the people. If you let us do it, we'll do it, and we can do that change with you all.
Just want to reiterate, thank you all. I appreciate the engagement here. You've seen our posters all over the place. You've seen our graphics on social media. appreciate if you guys could engage with that. If you have questions for us, reach out. I mean, transparency is transparency, but you guys have to tell us what you guys think. You gotta engage with us. So I really appreciate this. Appreciate the people who organized this. Appreciate our moderators. Thank you so much.
With that, thank you, everybody. Also, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about the questions were asked, nobody in Senate had anything to do with the questions. They all filtered through me and I guess my co-moderator here. So if you have any complaints, it has nothing to do with anybody who's in Senate currently. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you guys.
One question.
Specifically because it is personal, I know. So I will have good questions on very personal. Why? Get discipline classes, kernel, or iron on it.